213th Contact Tuesday, December 2, 1986, 3:17 a.m. Billy says, you have already endeavored for quite some time around the interests of Jmmanuel and also clarified the things around his tomb site. So you know, just like I do, where his tomb site is. Recently, archaeologists and others step into appearance, claiming that with great probability, have found the tomb. Does that correspond to the facts? Quetzal says, the fact that the tomb, respectively the tomb cave, is sought for corresponds to the truth, but the correct site wasn't found because some time ago, I had destroyed this by order of the High Council, and to be sure, completely, by what means also the hillside collapsed and buried everything. The reason for this was so that no new Christian cult site could arise from this. This would be the case and would have happened with certainty if the tomb cave had been found. A new malicious cult would have arisen from this, which would have taken on even worse proportions than what is the case today with the alleged birthplace of Jmmanuel in Bethlehem. As you know, the site wasn't even where today's Christian cults are held, regarding the alleged birthplace, etc. However, this doesn't bother the cult superiors, so they won't accept this truth and also won't disclose it. But so, it will be that the tomb cave of Jmmanuel will continue to be sought for, and already, a place has been localized, which should serve as Jmmanuel's tomb site, but inexcusable mistakes and unreal wishful thinking play a very important role in this. But through this, the researchers and would-be researchers make sense of unrealistic facts, which are devoid of any truth, because for quite some time, nothing more is noticeable or traceable on the slope's terrain, where the burial place caved in as a result of the destruction of the tomb and the slope's collapse. Nevertheless, false and misleading research will continue to operate, namely into the third millennium, where for a longer time, it will be erroneously maintained that the tomb site of Jmmanuel was actually found. And just concerning this tomb cave, in which you found the scrolls of Judas Iscariot, a few more things will happen in the coming time around the middle or the end of the last decade of this century which will confirm my words. You will become acquainted with a very interesting and enthusiastic young man, who will strive for these things when you inform him about the tomb site and about the destruction of the same. Currently, he is still in his younger years, but in the course of time, he will become a very well-known man with respect to extraterrestrial missiles and all things associated therewith. Also, he will take up your honor contact history and will represent this worldwide. Yet this will only happen with difficulty and on difficult detours, which will be due to your wife, who has already worked for some time in secret as well as in open form against you and your mission and who regularly carries out traitorous things that cause you and the group members harm and strife. However, he will be the man who will also perform investigations in Jerusalem in connection with the Talmud Jmmanuel and Isa Rashid and who will also find out that Jmmanuel's tomb site and the aforementioned hillside are actually destroyed. He will then also record this fact photographically. Billy says, those are some pieces of news again. Evidently, you have held rather decent future viewings or even traveled into the future. But may one ask, who this mysterious man will be, I mean, from where he comes and what his name will be? Quetzal says, that is no secret. He lives in Germany and is named Michael Hesemann. Translator's note, the following is an original English article written by James Deardorff. It appears in this section of this contact report in the original German book. The article can also be viewed at James Deardorff's website. Meier's Recollection No FTHETOMV site. Around 1960, Isa Rashid was prompted by the same Metz who later contacted Meier to locate the tomb site where the Talmud Jmmanuel T.J. lay buried. However, from what Meier later learned, Rashid didn't then take any action to explore the site or dig his way into it and soon forgot just where it was. In L963, however, when Meier was visiting him and they were walking along outside and south of Jerusalem's Old City, Meier was himself prompted to look out at the hillside and notice a small dark cleft or hole up on the slope, partially obscured by bushes. According to Meier's recollection in August 997, this hole was about 30 cm, or a foot, on a side. He reached into his packsack for his flashlight and peered into the hole to notice that it continued inwards. So he proceeded to dig away rocks and earth until the hole was large enough that they could crawl inside. Meier remembers that a shrub growing next to this entrance was a Meier plant. After more exploring inside the tomb site, they noticed something buried underneath a flat rock, and it turned out to be TJ scrolls, encased in resin, along with a few small artifacts. Meier's foreword within the translated TJ document continues the story from there, but gives no description of the tomb, which Meier learned later had been the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, which is mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew. To the best of his 34-year-old recollection, Meier drew the sketch below of a plan view of the tomb. A member of his support group Figu labeled it in English. The tomb is recollected to have been 3.5 to 4 meters in length. The outside slope of the hill is labeled as having been covered with rock, dirt and bushes. In the rear of the tomb, there was a narrow tunnel leading out to what had once been a second entrance, long since blocked with earth. This smaller, second entrance would have faced out onto the slope around a bend from where the tomb's main entrance had been. This was the entrance/exit through which Jmmanuel received medical attention from Joseph and some Hindu friends he had sought out, and from which they exited very early in the morning 3 days later, according to the TJ. This picture is consistent with guards actually having been posted at the tomb, as in Matthew 27:65-66, to safeguard it from any who would enter in and steal the body. The TJ indicates that this posting of the guards occurred a day or two earlier than in Matthew, more in keeping with the Gospel of John's timing, and so did not occur on a Sabbath when chief priests and Pharisees would have been reluctant to send a deputation to Pilate to ask for the guards. It is not inconceivable that those who helped Jmmanuel recover within the tomb could slip into the secret entrance on the side without being observed or suspected of anything by the guards. Apparently, this tomb site has not yet been explored by archaeologists. Uffologist Michael Hesemann of Düsseldorf, Germany, editor of magazine 2000+, explored the general area where the tomb was located in July 998. He retracted the route that Meier and Rashid had traversed in 963, to the best of Meier's recollections, while in contact with Meier by cellular phone. It is located along the south slope of the Hesemann Valley, not too far from its confluence with the Kidron Valley, and within the Akeldama Tombs area, south of the old city of Jerusalem. This had been a burial ground for foreigners, and Joseph of Arimathea likely was a foreigner, since the location of Arimathea remains unknown. According to an article by Gideon of Niemsvig Greenhütten Report #1 of the Israel Antiquities Authority, the Akeldama Tombs 1996, the confluence of the Kidron and Hesemann valleys, south of the old city of Jerusalem, contains one of Jerusalem's richest concentration of rock-hewn tombs. This area, located in the periphery of the village of Silwan, was one of the main burial grounds of Jerusalem. The use of the south part of the Hesemann Valley as burial grounds for foreigners is mentioned by Antoninus Martyr, who visited Jerusalem in about 560 CE. Apparently, years after the Potter's Field was renamed the Field of Blood Akeldama, it became enlarged to encompass adjacent areas of pre-existing tombs, including the tomb site of Joseph of Arimathea. The Akeldama site is mentioned by that name in Acts 1:19. From what Hesemann learned from Meier, he had been informed by one of the Pleiadians/Blearans Florina, in June of 1998, that sometime after 1973, they had caused a landslide to occur down and over the hillside containing the tomb site. If so, this would be very consistent with their strategy of ensuring that they do not force truth upon people who are not in any way prepared to accept it, and one way of doing this is to allow original evidence to be destroyed while allowing truth in the form of secondary evidence to be available. Hesemann believes he located the landslide/rubble ravine within the Akeldama Tombs region, which marks the approximate location